Hi everybody, my name is Elisa. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm gonna do something that I've been waiting for a while now, and it is finally sewing the Vampire's Wife inspired needlecord dress that I teased in last week's video. Yeah, I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this for a few days. I just didn't get to sewing, so now finally I have time. If you've not seen last week's video, in that I show you exactly how I came across the inspiration for this dress. I also show you how I drew the technical drawing to get a better understanding of what kind of pattern I needed to make. And in the video I also take you through the pattern construction process so you can recreate the dress for yourself at home if you so want to. So if you want to, check out that video after watching this one. I also showed you what kind of fabric I'm going to work with. As I mentioned, it is a needlecord and it is in this beautiful berry jewel tone color. I don't think I could have found a better one. I'm very excited about this and I'm so ready to finally cut out all of my pieces, which is what I'm gonna do next. First, I'm gonna clean off my floors and I'm gonna vacuum them to make sure the needlecord stays pristine and not dusty. And then we can get to sewing. So let's go. Alright, so first up I'm gonna open up the fabric and I'm gonna turn it around so that inside is out. And this just ensures that the actual needle cord is protected and doesn't get dusty. The only thing I need to try and keep in mind is the direction of the cord, so the grain line. You can find out what the grain line is by stroking over the fabric like this. If you do this and the fiber looks uneasy, then that's the wrong direction, and if you go the other way it should look easier and more relaxed, and that's really what you're trying to find out. So my grain line is like this, and this is something I need to keep in mind when cutting my pieces. Alright, all of my pieces are cut. The beauty of this is that the pattern is so simple. So we have the back skirt, which has an opening in the back. We have the front skirt, which is cut on the fold. The front bodice, which is also cut on the fold here. We have the back bodice, which has a seam, same as the skirt. And then we have our sleeve. Now, all of these pieces here do have the according lining on the back side. I already cut that as well. I'm not gonna line the sleeve. And then I also just cut a bunch of strips of fabric that are 10 centimeters in width for the sleeve and 12 centimeters in width for the skirt for the ruffles, and that's it really. And I'm gonna take a lunch break now, and then I can go and sew those things together. All right, all of the pieces are cut. The first thing I'm going to do is to sew in all of the darts simultaneously in the shell and in the lining. And once I've done that, I can continue with connecting the skirt pieces with the top pieces. Alright, first things first, I'm going to start with the front. The first thing I need to do is to mark the end of my dart and all of my pieces on all sides. Darts in the front are in, and I'm now going to go and press this as well as my lining. And I'm going to press the needle cord with a towel on top to make sure I'm not disturbing the structure of the fiber on the needle cord. So I just completed sewing in all of the darts and all of the pieces, and in total for the shell and for the lining that was about 12 darts. No, actually 16 darts, which took me a while. I think this took me about an hour now to get all of the darts in and press the pieces. They're all well prepared now. What I also did for both the lining and the shell, in the back skirt I sewed the two sides of the back skirt together, and I basically sewed the back seam in a 2.5 stitch length until the height of the beginning of the darts here, and then from that point to the waist I changed my stitch length to 5 and did not lock the top of the seam. I did that so I could press the back seam open like this, and now I can open this section back up because this is where the seam is going to go in. This is, for example, what the front bodice looks like. Super happy with the darts. I think they look quite neat. Now let's hope they also look good on my body. Right, so now since the shell and the lining is prepared, we can start joining some of the pieces together. What I will do first is I will grab my bodice pieces and skirt pieces and sew them together at the waist. That's a bit different from what I usually do. Usually I assemble the skirt and I assemble the bodice and then I join them together. This time around I just feel like doing things a little bit differently. So I'm gonna grab my front bodice, I'm gonna grab my front skirt, and I'm gonna sew them together here at the waist. I'm gonna do that for the shell as well as for the lining. Yeah, that's the game plan, so let's go. So we now have both the front and the back assembled for both the shell and the lining. That means I can now flop this back side, right sides touching onto the front, and then I can start sewing the two together. So first I'm gonna start with the shoulder seams here, and then I'm gonna sew the side seams. And once I've done that, I can try the dress for the first time. How exciting! I love the color as I thought I would, so this is really awesome. I like the silhouette. As you can see, I already folded over the hem of it just to see whereabouts I want it to end. Maybe a little longer because the ruffles are gonna go on here, so let's see. Now, the thing that I already mentioned in last week's video when I did the mock-up is I want to know how the vampire's wife does it, that the figure is so hugged here with just these darts. How? I don't know. I don't understand. So as you can see, it's well fitted, but we have this going on, which based off how the fabric works is just what it's gonna look like. However, I'm thinking I'm gonna give it a try, and I will try to give the darts a different shape in a way. So I'm gonna try to really go in here and then sharpish go back to the original line to create this hugging effect of the bust. And hopefully if I do that on both sides, we're gonna end up with the silhouette that the vampire's wife dresses have. At the moment, it's close, but it's not it, you know? That's what makes those dresses so special, that they're so simple, but so impeccably tailored that even the simplest dress just looks amazing. That's a challenge if there ever was one, so let's see if we can get there. Okay, so tell me in the comments, did you know that darts like that are a thing? Because I don't think I knew. Like, maybe I knew subconsciously, but I don't think I've ever seen darts like this. But look what this did. I mean, there's still a bit of like warpiness going on, but I will hopefully change that by shortening the torso a little bit. But even without pinning the top closed in the back, I'm just holding it with one hand. To definition. Look at this. This looks different than before. I can't just make that up. Yeah, so S-shaped darts are a thing. I did not know this. And this is apparently what makes the boobs like that. Okay, enough talking about busts. I will also apply this to the shell, and I will shorten the torso a little bit, just the bodice, not the skirt, to kind of counteract this little pocket here. Then I'm quite happy with this. I pressed the bust darts and I also cut them open like this on the inside so that they look super flat from the outside, because the dress is going to be lined. That's not a problem. I just adjusted my paper pattern to reflect the new shape of the dart, and can you believe it? That's what the dart looks like, and that's what makes the pattern hug your curves really well. And I definitely want to make another dress with that pattern because I'm hooked. And I think a really ditzy floral could look so cute for summertime, so I'm gonna hold on to this pattern for sure. Good morning to myself, since I don't know what time it is for you. It is a new day here, and I am super stoked to head into the final stretch of this project, I think. So the shell of the dress is already completed and looks pretty good to me. It misses the sleeves, obviously. Those are quite easy. I also continued to work on the lining last night, and I just made the adjustments that I made to the shell as well, with the new bust dart being this more curved dart with the cut open inside, and I shortened the torso here a little bit, and now I'm gonna join the front and back of these two, so that is ready to be joined with the shell. And after that I'm gonna start on the sleeves, which I'm excited for because I think they're gonna look really cute. Alright, so let's work on the sleeves, which are actually the showpiece of this dress. Now I created a few notches here. This was the first one that I made, but then I basically replaced this one with this one. And this determines how long the sleeve is going to be flat in the shoulder, and then from which point onwards it's going to be gathered. You can do that by simply placing it next to your armhole and then seeing how long you want it to be flat. I'm now going to take each sleeve and I'm going to add a basting stitch to my shoulder curve between these notches. So I'm setting my machine to the biggest stitch length I have, and then without locking the seam at the beginning or the end, I'm going to add 2 rows of basting stitches here. So now that that is done, I can put them to the side, and then I will reach for my little stripes here that I've created for the ruffles on the cuff of the sleeve. So these need to be finished, and also these need to get a basting stitch on one end. So I'm gonna add 2 rows of basting stitches on the top edge of these stripes as well. Alright, so now that both of these strips of fabric have a double row of basting stitches on one edge, the other edge will be the end of our sleeve and the final cuff. Now, the question you need to ask yourself is, how do you want to finish this? You could go ahead and use a serger if you have one, serge the edge and fold it over once. I want the seam to be as seamless as possible, so I'm gonna try to attempt and create the narrowest rolling hem I can come up with, meaning I'm gonna fold this over once, and then I'm gonna top stitch it very close to the edge. I'm then gonna cut back the remaining seam allowance, roll it over once again, and then top stitch it once more. Okay, so now that I have finished the ruffle pieces, I can go ahead and gather them up to the total distance of my cuff here. So I'm grabbing one sleeve and one ruffle. I'm going to tie up one end of my basting stitches so they don't come loose like this. And now I grab the 2 top threads of my stitches on the other side, and I can start to gather them. And I'm simply gathering them so they are the same length, the cuff and the ruffles, and then I can tie them up on this end as well. Now, when I'm happy with the distribution of the gather, which I think I am, I can flip this and place it right sides touching onto my cuff, and then I'll place a few pins. Alright, so the sleeves are prepared. Now, the only thing that I didn't want to do, but now I finally conceded to, is to thread my serger in some matching colors, because I definitely need to serge this seam so it looks nice, because it's possible that when I move my arm, that seam will be visible from certain angles, so I want it to look clean and nice. And after that I can close my side seam. I wanted to do that in a French seam first, but now that I've threaded my serger, I think I can just serge it. So that will be happening now, and then we can move on to insert the sleeve into the dress. Alright, so the sleeves are prepped and ready to be inserted into the dress, which I'm super stoked for. Also, something else that has nothing to do with anything, but yesterday I scrolled through Pinterest and then I found an ad, or like an ad was served to me, of this dress, which is not the vampire's wife, but is the vampire's wife. I know that that is a thing in the fashion industry, that less high-end brands will eventually copy what high-end brands do, but this is like just mean. Like, look at it. This is exactly the same dress. I don't know. I think that should be forbidden. I mean, that being said, I'm obviously making a copy of the Vampire's Wife design, but I think that's fair game since I'm only making it for myself and I'm not making it for commercial use. So not sure what to think about this, but I think that's just weird. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's insert these bad boys. I'm just placing the dress in front of me so that I have a good look at the armhole. Then I will need to turn this around. Now what I will do is I will place the side seam of the sleeve onto the side seam of the dress and place a needle. This is the first anchor point. From here I can then pin this sleeve into the armhole flat for a little while, into the front. Now I'm going to reach into the armhole and pull it out like this so I can continue pinning from the inside. I will pin the back of the sleeve flat into the armhole also for a little while until I reach my notches where the actual gathering stitch begins. And now we have this ease here with our gathering stitch that needs to be gathered down. I will tie one end of the gathering stitch up so nothing comes loose, and then on the other side I grab the 2 top threads and I can start gathering up the shoulder curve. And the sleeve is in. Let's repeat on the other side. Alright, so I couldn't quite finish the dress yesterday because things got in the way. It's okay, life happens. That's how far we are. Sleeves are in, looking very cute, and the lining is also ready to be joined with the dress. Now, I was thinking last night that I want to add a tiny little standing collar around the neckline, so it's not just this crew neck. I think it could look cute. So I need to cut a strip of fabric and then gather it together so I can sandwich it between the shell and the lining. And then I will most likely add the zip to the shell before attaching the lining to the shell. That makes sense. And then the last thing will be to hem the dress, so let's go. First, I want to assess how long the distance between the 2 center back points is all around my neck, so I know how long this strip has to be. Okay, so for the little standing collar, I cut a strip of fabric that is 6 centimeters in total width. I then folded it over right sides touching and sewed the edges so I could overturn them and have a nice clean look. I then took this to my iron and pressed it down, and this is what we have now, a nice double-sided strip of needle cord. And now I'm going to add a basting stitch down here so I will be able to gather it up. Okay, so now I grab my neckline, and after giving the center front of my little collar here a little nip so I can identify it, and then I can start to gather down this distance so it ends here. Ooh, I like the look of this. Very, very cute. Alright, so the first step to pulling this all together will be to work on the zip in the back. So the first step to installing the zip is done. I just loosely tucked it in place. And now we can get the lining in place. All right, so now we can think about the lining. And when I say think about the lining, I mean think about the lining, because I don't yet know 100% how this is gonna go. So I think I'm gonna turn the lining inside out, and then I'll try to get the shell in here, so that the right sides of the shell and lining are facing. I'll pull my sleeves through the armholes of the lining as well, like this. So it kind of looks like this. Now the way to go is to pin all the way around the neck as well as down the zip. And then once we stitch the zip, we need to get as close to the teeth of the zip as possible. And that's going to A, keep the lining in place, and then B, finish off the zip as well. So that's the idea. Let's see if we can do this. Okay, let's see how this worked out. Pulling that back out. Okay, so this looks really neat. We need to get that into the dress. It seems to have worked. Oh my gosh. The lining is in. Can you believe it? It is in. Wow, this looks so nice. As it closes, still visible, so we need to get closer to the zip in the back, and I will most likely only be able to do that by hand because I don't have the right zipper foot for it. But before I do anything else, I'm gonna give this a try. Look at it, it's so cute. Not ready yet, but close. Alright, so now that the dress is shortened, I also quickly have gone ahead and hemmed the lining skirt, so it looks a little something like this now. And the last thing to do to finish off the hem is to grab our ruffle pieces, which I prepared the exact same way as I did the ones for our cuffs. I need to gather them down. For that, I'm just placing the skirt in front of me so I know exactly how wide it is. I'll tie up one end of my gathering stitch to make sure it's not coming loose, and then from the other side, grabbing my two top threads, I can start to gather them. So once I've gathered it down, I need to make sure I have a centimeter-ish on each side seam allowance to join the two ruffle pieces, one for the front skirt and one for the back skirt, together to create a side seam. Gosh, look at this. It's so nice. I'm so excited about this, seriously. I think it's so pretty. There are a few finishing touches. First, I'm going to sew the hem of the lining skirt in the side seam area to the hem of the shell skirt. And that is so that the lining skirt isn't wandering up when we wear the dress. And I'm doing that by hand. I'm just gonna basically tuck it in place or create this little rope-like situation. It's not necessarily something you have to do, but it's definitely gonna up the dress. It's gonna make it more comfortable. Your lining isn't gonna wander all the way up. It's just gonna stay in place. Practically no difference. We don't need them. Means we're done. Faster than the speed of light. We stretch time. Snare drum pass, wicked sins. Faster than the speed of light. And we don't look too guilty. We don't crave too much. You call it but I'm not gonna save you. Nah, I'm not gonna talk to you. When you do that, say I'm not gonna feel you. No, I'm not gonna talk to you. Nah, you call it but I'm not gonna save you. Hey guys, just wanted to give you my scoop on how I think the dress turned out. I am super pleased with it. I hope you're too. I think it's so nice. It's a real wardrobe staple. It's super flattering. I love the color and the fabric, and I don't think I could be more pleased, honestly. That's the bottom line, I guess. Yeah, super happy I lined the dress. Also really pleased with the wearability of it. I've worn the dress now to multiple occasions. I went to dinner with it a couple of times, and the final reveal shots you just saw were taken in Oxford in the hotel that I stayed in for my birthday weekend, and I don't know what you think about them. I know they're a bit different than usually, they're a bit artsy, but I wanted to tap into the darkness of the persona of the vampire's wife and give it a fitting reveal, so that's why I chose that setting. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you did like this video series, please subscribe if you haven't yet. Please tell the algorithm you like my stuff by liking the video. If you want to share the love, I would be so pleased. It would be great to see you here more often. Alright, see you next time.
It's you, not us. You're out of time.